How appropriate. At this time, our speaker this morning is a stranger to us. No, not really. She's been with us different times, and we enjoy having her. She's a pleasure to listen to.
That's because I don't get mean and...
Yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, Peg, if you will.
Good morning. Good to be here. Good to be here.
Yes.
Good to see you. Good to be here. But
Everything.
yes. Good morning, everyone. It's good to be here this morning. Beautiful morning out there. It's nice to see all your smiling faces. And see the little ones here this morning, too. You, yes. I met Hunter for the first time this morning, huh? Yeah. We're all ready for Christmas, right? Well, it's that time of the year, isn't it? The radios in the stores are all playing Christmas carols trying to get us in the mood. The decorations are popping up everywhere and making everything merry and bright. And I do love seeing all the lights at night, and everything is just so beautiful. And of course, we have all the Hallmark movies that have been on since before Halloween. Then there are the old favorites that are coming on, like The Christmas Story, White Christmas, It's a Wonderful Life. Well, this morning I would like to refresh your memory about It's a Wonderful Life. The story is about George Bailey's life that hadn't turned out the way he was hoping. Other people's lives had gotten in the way of what he really wanted to do. He was working a job that he didn't really want, but it was kind of thrust upon him when his father passed away and his brother got married. He just didn't have much choice other than to go into the family business. Now, the economy is tanking. His business is under investigation, and he's missing some funds that are going to probably end up putting him in jail. He has a family that is relying on him. His house isn't what he'd hoped it would be, and the pressures of life have completely overwhelmed him. What should have been an enjoyably joyous time of the year, Christmas, has only been compounded by all of the poor circumstances of his life. So George finally turns to the Lord. But instead of everything improving, he just ends up getting punched in the face. He feels like there's no hope left, and that the world would be better off without him. George was a man who had given up his dreams to help others, and whose imminent suicide on Christmas Eve brings about the intervention of his guardian angel, Clarence. We remember Clarence. Clarence shows George all the lives that he has touched and how different life in his community of Bedford Falls would have been if he had never been born. Have you ever felt hopeless like George Bailey? Have you had a despair so deep that you felt there was nothing worth living for? Well, I sure hope you haven't been that low. But Jeremiah chapter 29 verse 11 tells us that God has plans for us. Plans to prosper his people. Plans to give them hope and a future. This is the hope that the Hebrews carried in their hearts for many, many years. They lived in captivity of the Assyrians in the 8th century BC, and from the Babylonians in the 6th century BC. The political situation of the people in Israel was in total disarray, and they were in the depths of despair. For many, many years, they had lived and worked in exile. Everything that had been precious to them in their previous lives had been destroyed, and their dreams were taken from them. But they still remembered painfully what had been theirs, and they anticipated with hope that their former lives could be restored. Now, this morning I'd like to read from Isaiah 11, verses 1 through 10. And while you're looking that up, I'll give you some background from chapter 10. Now, Isaiah tells us that the Lord of the heavens' armies will destroy the Assyrians and will chop them down, and will chop down the mighty tree of Assyria with great power. He will cut down the proud, and that lofty tree will be brought down. He'll cut down the forest trees with axes, and Lebanon will fall like the mighty one. Now, that kind of reminds me of the clear cutting of the forest that's done for commercial profit, but ends up just totally destroying everything in its path and leaving dead trees, scavenged land, and pathetic looking stumps. Now I'll read from Isaiah 11, verse 1 through 10. Out of the stump of David's family will grow a shoot, yes, a new branch bearing fruit from the old root. And the Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. He will delight in obeying the Lord. He will not judge by appearance, nor make a decision based on hearsay. He will give justice to the poor and make fair decisions for the exploited. The earth will shake at the force of his word, and one breath from his mouth will destroy the wicked. He will wear righteousness like a belt and truth like an undergarment. In that day the wolf and the lamb will live together. The leopard will lie down with the baby goat. The calf and the yearling will be safe with the lion, and a little child will lead them. The cow will graze near the bear. The cub and the calf will lie down together. The lion will eat hay like a cow. The baby will play safely near the hole of a cobra. Yes, a little child will put its hand in a nest of deadly snakes without harm. Nothing will hurt or destroy in all my holy mountain, for as the waters fill the sea, so the earth will be filled with people who know the Lord. In that day, the heir to David's throne will be a banner of salvation to all the world. The nations will rally to him, and the land where he lives will be a glorious place. Just when things appear hopeless and the future looks bleak, the prophet Isaiah utters a most amazing promise that God will send a king. And this king will be from the great and glorious line of Jesse, who will rule with wisdom, with justice toward all men, and mercy toward the most vulnerable. The prophet Isaiah prophesied that this area known as the Galilee would not always be so troubled. Isaiah promised that God would then send light and joy through the birth of a child who could break the yoke of their burden. Like Elijah, Jeremiah, and the other prophets, Isaiah was called by God to deliver this message to Israel for its own welfare. But along with the warnings against Israel's sin and rebellious ways came a message of hope that would carry on for centuries after Isaiah's passing. Throughout the test of time, Isaiah's words encouraged thousands of people who had suffered the drudgeries in life while waiting for the Messiah to come. The Israelites continued to have faith that God would lead them out of exile and would send them a Messiah. They waited for centuries. Yes, centuries. That's hundreds of years. It would be 800 years before the Messiah would come. Think about that. Our country's only been here a little over 200 years. It would be 800 years. Of course, like George Bailey, the Israelites had their times of trial and tribulation when their faith faltered and their despair almost overtook them. But we must always remember, as the Israelites did, that even in our darkest of days, we serve a mighty God. As we continue to walk in faith, as we continue to keep focused, we can trust that we serve a wonderful God who has a plan for each of us. That plan is there so that we can have hope. We have hope because we have a God who cares. A God who cares about us and a God who cares for us. How do we know this? Well, this little book right here tells us all that. All we need to do is read His Word to see how He has cared for His children since the beginning of time, and know that He has always provided hope for those who walk in faith. We have a hope that God can work every circumstance that we are facing that is bad, and He will work it for our good and His glory as we continue to walk our walk of faith. We must be faithful. We need to surround ourselves with those who can help us keep focused and serve Him so that we can be in a place where God can do miracles in us and through us. Walk in faith, and you will be able to walk in hope. In the scriptures, the word hope is used over 200 times. As you begin to see how the word hope is used throughout the Bible, it can be summarized something like this. Hope means a confident expectation in the future. It means a contagious enthusiasm for what will come. The idea of hope is that you're looking forward to the future with enthusiasm, with confidence, with expectation, that there is a blessing on the other end of it. Hope is a good thing, but we need more than hope. We cannot walk in hope without first believing in God and Christ and experiencing this love and the promises that He has to offer. As Christians, we are called to use Advent as a time of preparation and solemn expectation, as a time to focus our understanding and efforts on the promises that God makes to us during the season. Now is the time that we need to rediscover and reclaim the reason for this season. Now is the time when we need to be patient and listen and wait for the coming of the Christ child. You remember how when we were little it was so hard to be patient. But as adults, we need to be patient and listen. In our world of hurry up and instant gratification, that feat has become a very difficult thing for us to do. As Christians, we believe that the precious child that came on that night in Bethlehem was the very key to a fulfillment of a promise made to us by God and spoken of through the prophets. Prophecy, promises, and preparation, they're all part of Advent's traditions. They serve as reminders in this hectic season that there is more to prophecy than guessing what is in that package. There's more to promises than what Santa Claus will bring. And there's more to preparation than cleaning the house and putting on a big spread for a holiday party. On this second Sunday of Advent, we are called back to the longing. We are called back to the longing, not for a certain present, but for a Messiah who brings about a beloved community of harmony and peace. The passages that we read this morning speak of wishes, desires, and the hint of fulfillment that is Christmas. We need to hear, believe, and get ready. We need to hear the promise that will bring to all of us who believe in Him a deeper understanding of who God is and always will be for us. And it is this promise of hope that is at the heart of what we are preparing for. It is a promise that through the birth, the life, the death, and the resurrection of His very Son, we would learn and know that our God is a God of love, a God of joy, and a God of peace. But most of all, He is a God in whom we focus on and put all our hope in this Advent season. Hope. Isn't that a wonderful word? Hope. What are you hoping for this season? What will this Advent season bring you? What are you watching and waiting and preparing for? Many of you, or probably everybody of you, are familiar with How the Grinch Stole Christmas. You can tell I've been watching Christmas movies, can't you? The Grinch was miserable. He was mean and hateful. He just did not like Christmas. He lived near Whoville, a little town that loved the Christmas time of the year. There also lived a kind-hearted and loving little Cindy Lou Who. She discovered that in the past, the Grinch had been bullied and treated badly, and that was why he was so mean and hateful. She tries to make things better by inviting him to Whoville for Christmas activities, but that only ended up making things worse. The Grinch got madder and meaner and more hateful, and he decided to steal all of Whoville's Christmas gifts. Back in Whoville, everyone is sad and distraught, and the mayor even blamed the whole thing on Cindy Lou Who for inviting the Grinch to come spend Christmas with him. But Cindy's father, he was different. He proclaimed that he was actually very proud of Cindy, because he had seen that Christmas was not about presents and decorations, but about being together. Now, the Grinch saw that everyone was happy, even without their presents, and it made him realize it came without ribbons, it came without tags, it came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. Bring back memories? You see, the Grinch realized that there was something sacred beneath all the wrapping and trimmings, and that something was the true meaning of Christmas. Yes, maybe Christmas does mean a little bit more. We're all very much aware of this, but sometimes we just need a gentle reminder. Cindy Lou Who and Clarence the Angel both showed us what the true meaning of Christmas is all about. It's about sharing with others the joy and the peace and the love and the hope that we received when God sent His Son into the world. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. For God sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. It's our duty as Christians to be the Cindy Lou Who in some Grinch's life. It's our duty as Christians to be the Clarence in some George Bailey's life. God sent his Son into the world, but he also sent us into the world to serve him and to be his disciples, to share his message of love and hope. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a whole lot more. Amen. Now, if you'd all stand and sing hymn number 112, Away in a Manger.